Kids cannot make that choice. There is absolutely no way in hell that we should be allowing kids to have trans-affirming care. As parents in this world, as a healthcare system, that is what your position is to tell these kids the truth. That is love. That is care. Talk some sense into them. Your job as a parent is to love your kids and to tell them the truth and to talk sense into them, not to affirm their delusions. Hi there. For those who don't know me, my name is Laurel, and I am what's known as a detransitioner. Meaning that at one time I transitioned from male to female to live life as a woman, and since then have come to my senses, or was guided, or however you want to look at it, that it was not the right path to take. My perspective is that I came to the realization that it was wrong, that it was a sin. It was actually a sin to have transitioned in the first place. That I was created by God as a male, and that the only thing that would cause me to deviate from that was experience-derived perspectives. And this I honestly believe to be true for all trans-identifying individuals. I do not believe that trans is a real, legitimate thing. I believe that it is very real for those who experience it, like it was for me. It was so real that it caused me to have permanent life-altering surgery to my body, and for a time to take female hormones, which were also detrimental to my well-being and health, in the idea that it was the right thing for me to do at the time, and that it was making me happier. And so, yeah, in 2017 I started taking female hormones, and then after the prerequisite 2-year period of living full-time as a woman in 2019, I had surgery to my body to cause my body to align with this belief, this perspective I had developed over the course of my life, very early on in my life. And one of the biggest arguments I get from current trans-identifying individuals is that, well, you weren't really trans if you decided to detransition. And I get tired of that argument because, trust me, I would not have gone down that path and made such permanent alterations to my body if I did not fully believe and fully identify that that was what was right for me all along. And so, that being said, I wanted to make another little video here talking specifically about hormones and surgeries, affirming care, and affirming care for children. Okay? I was 30-something years old when I made the decision to transition. If an adult my age cannot make the decision for one's lifelong effects, for the lifelong choices to one's body, then how can a child? We have these people that are pushing the idea that children have the right and ability to make lifelong decisions, to make decisions that have lifelong consequences for themselves. Kids know who they are. They know who they are better than we know. I've been around this world a time or two, and I don't know everything, but I know enough to know that kids are not fully developed yet. Their minds are not fully developed yet, and they do not have the ability to make such decisions for themselves. A kid does not know the long-term consequences of their choices. I believe it's well understood that the human brain is not fully online until about 25 years old. Kids notoriously make poor choices because they do not understand the long-term consequences of their actions. Teenagers have this tendency to have developed a perspective that they know better than the adults around them. They know just enough to identify who they think they are in relation to other people, and that's what identity is. Identity is how you relate to your environment and those around you. If it wasn't for the people around you and you were just all by yourself on an island, your identity would be formed around that. But your identity is how you relate to those around you and how you see yourself in relation to those around you. And kids have a very underdeveloped idea and perspective of who they are in relation to those around them. If you've ever raised a child and watched them go to school and then come home and tell you about the interactions they had, and it's like it's the end of the world to them if somebody at school said something about them or felt a certain way about them, and they fall apart over it. And this is because they think that it really matters. They think that these interactions with their peers are so set in stone and mean something about their identity. And I don't understand how anybody could possibly think that it is okay to hand over to a child that decision to take something into their body that is going to fundamentally damage it. There is this misperception, this idea that hormones are simply this medicine that you can take that's going to change your body to be the sex that you want to be. That we have TikTok and social media and those in the trans ideology world that are trying to push on the rest of society this idea that hormones are not harmful, that puberty blockers are not harmful, that the instant you stop puberty blockers, puberty starts again. A human body is forming around hormones. Hormones are a very fundamental part of human body formation. There's this idea that hormones are like a supplement that you can take that will cause the body to form the desired characteristics of the sex that one is trying to identify as. And there is, to a certain extent, this does happen. If a male takes female hormones, he will develop breast tissue, and his face will soften and get a little more feminine looking. Hormones will actually even affect the structure of the body because the body depends on hormones. It depends on the proper hormones for how that body was formed in utero. And it just drives me crazy when I see so many people online implying that hormones are of less significance than what they really are. They want to perpetuate this idea that a child taking puberty blockers, it will only stop their puberty, and then if they change their mind later, they can stop taking the puberty blockers and their body will form the way it's supposed to. This is such a lie. This is so wrong. Because the body must form with the proper hormones as it's forming, it will not form properly if it does not have the proper hormones on board while it is forming. And so a child, like take Jazz Jennings for example. Jazz Jennings is a fairly well-known trans girl. He was born male and early on started telling his parents that he was a girl. I felt the same way when I was little. I wouldn't have dared told my parents, but I felt the same way, that I was a girl trapped in a boy's body, and I just held that secret deep inside. But imagine if I had parents like Jazz Jennings And my parents had said, oh, okay, then let's stop your puberty from happening so you can grow up as a girl. Well, that's just exactly what happens. It stops puberty, causes the male body to form more like a girl. Most people who look at Jazz Jennings, if they didn't know he was born male, they would just assume he was a she. And that's the danger of hormones, that it does cause such drastic effects to the human body. But they are life-altering effects. They are not just surface level. They go very deep. The effects of hormones are very deep on a person. On someone born female who takes male hormones, and we see this one a lot more. There are various obvious known reasons why many girls in today's society feel like it would be better for them to be a boy. They identify that they would be treated better, that they'd be safer in this world, that men get better respect. It's wild, all the things that our poor young girls are fighting with in our current culture and society and social media, and all the reasons that they feel like they would be better off to be male. And so we have this huge number of young girls nowadays that are identifying as boys, identifying as trans, and they start taking male hormones. I am a part of a number of detransitioner Facebook groups where I see regularly these poor girls who took testosterone, which permanently lowered their voice, permanently caused body hair and facial hair to form, and now they have come out of that. They grew up, they matured into adults, and they realized, oh wait, that was just a perspective I developed. That was just a belief that came over me because I thought I would be better off and happier as a man. And now they're suffering the permanent effects of that testosterone. Hormones are a serious thing. They are not just something that will just change you to be the sex that you want for a while, and if you change your mind you can go back. Hormones are almost just as destructive as the surgeries are because of this. And these poor girls now, they realize that they were born female and they want to go back to living as girls, but now they get mistaken for trans women all the time. They go into a business and or they go into the female bathroom where they actually belong because they were born female, but because they have a low voice and because they have certain masculine features from having taken testosterone since they were teenagers, they now get mistaken as trans women, which are actually men who think they're women. I have a problem with the whole terminology now. I almost can't bring myself to call a man who thinks he's a woman a trans woman, because that implies that he is a woman, and he is not. A trans man, which was born female and now identifies as a man, you're not a man. You're still a female. You are still a woman. So I really have a hard time calling female identifying men trans women, because the whole terminology is affirming, and I cannot be affirming to that delusion anymore. I cannot. I just can't. I can be loving and accepting of all human beings and where they're at and what their perspective is, but I will not affirm a delusion. I will not affirm what I know is an experience-derived perspective. I can't do it. And so I watch these poor young girls struggle. They post all the time that I realized that it was a delusion. I realized it was a belief that was built in experience, and now I want to go back to living my female, feminine self, but I can't. My body's been permanently changed by the hormones I was taking. The testosterone I was taking, it lowered my voice, and now everywhere I go I get mistaken for a man who thinks he's a woman. And it is so sad for me to see. I mean, I have my own experience here where I have to live the rest of my life knowing that I made the decision, made the choice to take from myself the ability to ever father kids, to take away certain intimacy with my wife because of a delusion I was under that was temporary. It turned out to be temporary. At the time, it felt like it was what I had to do or I could not go on living any longer. And this is why I cannot and will not accept being told by current trans living people that, well, what was not right for you doesn't mean it's not right for me. No, this is not right for anybody. It is a sin. It is a sin. You are sinning against God's beautiful creation. God created you the way you were, and it was only experience and perspective driven from that experience that caused you to develop the belief that you could not be what you really are. It doesn't mean that it's not right for you to be what you are. What's right is for you to surrender to the fact that you were born into the body you were born into, the body that God wanted you to have and created for you, and to deviate from that is literally a sin. It is wrong. It is not right for anybody. Of course, as adults, you have the choice to make whatever decisions you want to, but like I said, here I was an adult that made a decision that I thought was right, and later turned out to realize it was absolutely the wrong decision, and I never should have done it, and now I have to live with those consequences, and that is heart-wrenching. I experience a lot of really dark, depressive times because I realize the permanence of the decision I made during a temporary phase in my life where that was my belief and perspective that needed to happen. You have no idea how frequently I wish so bad I could go back to that day that I was at the hospital about to be put under for surgery, and that I could say wait and stop them and stop the whole thing from having happened. But I can't. I'm lucky as a male-born individual that I was able to stop taking the female hormones and start taking testosterone, which I have to take for the rest of my life now because my body doesn't produce it naturally, because I rid my body of the testosterone producing factory that it used to have on board naturally that God gave me, and now for the rest of my life I have to go get testosterone and take it to supplement, to give my body what it needs. Hormones are a vital part of a human's health, of a human body's function, and the proper hormones are vital. You cannot feed a human body opposite sex hormones and expect things to work out right and for your body to function properly. There are female identifying men that quite often comment on my videos and say, "That's not right, I'm perfectly healthy." No, you're kidding yourself. You're lying to yourself. You are not. While you may not be currently identifying certain life-altering effects on your body, they're there. And your body will not function properly. It might function to the extent that you want it to in your current identification, but that's not your body's full extent. Your body needs the hormones that it was designed to function off of. And so as far as children getting affirming care, there's a lot of stuff in the government right now trying to decide whether we should allow children to make this choice, whether there should be such thing as affirming care for children. Absolutely not. No, there should not be. As I said earlier, kids fundamentally do not understand the long-term consequences of their choices. And if there are as many people as I'm seeing, countless numbers of young people who then come into adulthood and realize they made a huge mistake, that right there is enough alone for me and anyone else to look at and say, well, duh, obviously we should not be giving these kids hormones that alter their bodies permanently, and the lies that it is only temporary and that their body will go back as soon as they stop taking the hormones. That is not correct. It is not correct. Once a voice goes lower in a female from taking testosterone, it will never be higher again. They have to either have surgery to correct that, or to really, really practice speaking in a higher voice, just like female identifying men have to do in order to talk more like female. It is absolutely bonkers to me that we think that kids could have the ability to make that decision to take hormones that permanently alter their body. And like I said, seeing as many regretful young girls who now want to go back to living as a girl because they recognize they made a mistake, because it's always a mistake every single time. I don't care who you are, even if you have lived as the opposite sex for many, many years and still feel happy in that, it's still a sin. It is still wrong, and you should still not be doing it. For many, many reasons. God's beautiful creation set aside. It's weird. It's confusing to people. It confuses kids. There are so many reasons not to do it. And life is far more beautiful when you surrender to the design, when you surrender to God's plan for you, His design for you. So yeah, I want to be far more vocal from my position as someone who went down this road, that trans-affirming care for kids should not exist. And I have many, many well-founded reasons that it should not. I have a great catalog of observation of other people's experiences now, of these young women who have come out of their delusion and realized they made a mistake, and to see the absolute horrific permanence of their early life choices, and the adults around them, and the doctors and the healthcare and mental health care systems that all allowed them to do this to themselves. There is horror in this. Horror. It is terrible. It's disturbing to see. And these poor young girls now have to live the rest of their lives with the permanent repercussions of their choices. I mean, I was an adult in my 30s when I chose to do it, and if someone like myself and many other adults couldn't make that decision, then how in the world can a child? They can't. Kids cannot make that choice. There is absolutely no way in hell that we should be allowing kids to have trans-affirming care, to take hormones, or especially surgeries. These poor girls that have their breasts cut off early on because it doesn't feel like me. I want to have a flat chest. I want to be a boy. I want to be a man. It doesn't belong on my body. Then years later they realize, oh wait, I wish so bad I could breastfeed my babies. I wish so bad I could have babies, because taking testosterone often makes girls infertile. There are life-altering, permanent damages that happen to the human body by taking the wrong hormones. And these ridiculous surgeries that are offered to these young people who cannot make these lifelong, permanent decisions for themselves. You just cannot do that. We cannot be allowing kids to have these trans-affirming cares. It is a delusion. It is a delusion-affirming care. It's not care. We call it care, as if it's in their best interest, as if it's something loving we're doing for them. It is not loving. Loving is to tell your child, I'm sorry you feel this way, but you are simply what you were born as. That's just how it is. That's our position as parents. As parents in this world, as a healthcare system, that is what your position is to tell these kids the truth. That is love. That is care, to tell the kids the truth. When a kid comes into a therapy office and says, I feel like I'm a boy, if they were born a girl, care and love is telling them, I see you, I hear you, I love you, I hear that that's how you feel. Let's talk about why you feel that way. Not, yep, you're right, you were probably born in the wrong body. Here's some hormones and some surgeries to make your body align with this perspective that your mind developed. That is ludicrous. And I will not stop saying that until I see some serious change in our system, in our health and mental health care systems. We cannot allow this to continue. Absolutely not. These poor young people are being devastated. They are being destroyed, and they are coming out of it to realize the mistake they made, but they can't undo it. You can undo a mindset, but you cannot undo permanent changes to the body. Thank you all for listening, and please help fight this insanity. Please do not allow this to happen. Please, if your kid comes to you and says, I feel like I'm in the wrong body and that I would be better off to live as the opposite sex, talk some sense into them. That's your job as a parent. Your job as a parent is to love your kids and to tell them the truth and to talk sense into them, not to affirm their delusions.